Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Today, we're going to be talking about Ghostbusters Afterlife. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons. So, let's get to it. Pros. It's Ghostbusters. Need I say more? You know what? I'm going to say more anyway. Ghostbusters is a brand that's been around for nearly 40 years. Started in 1984 with as a small comedy starring Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and the late Harold Ramis, and also Sigourney Weaver too. Right? And the basic premise of that movie was you had these four guys and they busted ghosts. Hence the name Ghostbusters. It was a rather simple concept, but it worked like a charm because the movie is considered one of the greatest comedies of not just the 80s, but of all time. And when it comes to its box office, you can say the same too. Like, it's definitely one of the biggest comedies ever. You know, even without inflation, it's still one of the bigger comedies out there. And it had a sequel 5 years later in 1989. Sequel wasn't as good. A lot of people were like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. It was merely okay ish. And although it wasn't as successful as the first, it still made more than enough to justify its existence. And plus, it had the biggest opening weekend of all time at the time. Granted, that record would soon fall thanks to Michael Keaton's Batman, but still made money. And overall, Ghostbusters is such a recognizable brand. I mean, the logo, like with the ghost, with crossed out with a red circle, like that logo. You've probably seen that logo everywhere at this point. It's so iconic and so recognizable. And not to mention the merch, like Ghostbusters, it's all about merch. It's been about merch for decades now. I mean, we're talking toys, we're talking memorabilia, we're talking costumes, we're talking food. I know there was like a drink that was super iconic. I don't know the name of it. Let me look it up real quick. I should know this. I really should. But keep in mind, I'm not like a die-hard Ghostbusters fan. What was it? I think it was the Ecto Cooler. Yes, that. Wow, you probably recognize that. And not to mention, there was animated shows and games. Ghostbusters, the video game from 2009. That game is legit. That had all four actors, their likenesses and their voices, and it's a damn good game. Please play it. Please buy it. They released a remaster of it not too long ago. Please buy it. You'll love it. Like if you're a Ghostbusters fan, that game was made for you. Like it really was. But yeah, Ghostbusters, super iconic brand. It's pretty much definition of brand name recognition. So that's pro number one, obvious brand name recognition. So that's an easy pro right there. That's pro number one. Pro number two. Uh, well, let's look at the cast here. The cast, well, it doesn't say it here, but, well, it does say it. All four Ghostbuster, well, not all four, obviously, because Harold Ramis died in like 2014, so he's not in here, obviously. But Murray, Aykroyd, Hudson, even Sigourney Weaver, they're all gonna come back in this movie. The 2016 movie doesn't count because they weren't playing the same characters and they were cameos, so that's disqualified. Here they are playing the same characters, so it does count. It does count. And I feel like that's gonna drive a lot of interest for this movie. You know, seeing the old gang back together again. I mean, some would argue that's nostalgia bait, but hey, nostalgia is a powerful drug. And when it works, it really works. I mean, it's probably how Force Awakens made as much money as it did because everybody wanted to see Luke, Han, and Leia again after so many years. And I feel like the same kind of applies to this. Granted, not as on a as big of a scale, but still. Yeah, I think having the original cast, at least majority of the original cast, come back will help this movie. And not to mention, we got Paul Rudd in here. I mean, Paul Rudd, the dude's a national treasure. He hasn't aged in like since freaking Clueless back in '95. He looks the freaking same, except he has a beard now. Like, I don't know. That man must have, you know, taken a dip in the fountain of youth because I don't know how he's able to look the same after so many years. It's crazy. But yeah, he's a recognizable face, obviously. I mean, he's Ant Man. He's Ant Man. He's been a lot of. Well, let's just look at his resume. He's 52. God, and he looks the same as he was in his 30s. Like, what the hell? Yeah, he's Ant Man. Also in a lot of Seth Rogen comedies, at least some of them. I mainly recognize him. Yeah, he was an Anchorman. He was an Anchorman, 4-year-old version, Knocked Up, da da da, da 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 da. Role Models, I Love You Man, Dinner for Schmuck. Well, nobody really remembers that movie. This is 40, and then Anchorman 2, and then he got the Ant-Man gig, and his stock really went up. So yeah, I think having Paul Rudd in this movie is a pro, automatic pro. Plus the original cast of Ghostbusters coming back, pros, easy, easy. So yeah, I consider the cast a pro here. Third pro, competition this weekend is pretty lackluster. I mean, the Eternals is like 3 weeks old at this point, so it's pretty much played out. I don't think King Richard's gonna put up much of a fight. uh, so like for this weekend, competition is very light, so it should have no problem being number one, and plus being number one, you know, well, pretty much just dominating for the most part. So yeah, lack of competition. Even next week, I mean, the only real competition this movie has to face, actually for the next month, maybe Encanto, maybe. But then there's Spider Man coming up in a month from now. That will be a definite problem, but that's not till next month. So Ghostbusters Afterlife will have a lot of time to make money. So I consider lack of direct competition easy pro. That's third pro. Fourth pro is the weekend this movie is being released on. Now I know most people would be like, "Oh no, Thanksgiving is the most important weekend of November because it's a big deal and movies can make a lot of money." And yes, that is accurate. But what a lot of people don't recognize is that the weekend before Thanksgiving can be extremely, extremely lucrative. And there's plenty of evidence to support that. I mean, like since 2000, we've had plenty of huge hits open the weekend before Thanksgiving. I mean, there was The Grinch with Jim Carrey, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Die Another Day, National Treasure, and the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, both that same weekend. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and Walk the Line too. Happy Feet, Casino Royale, the first Twilight, Twilight New Moon, The Blind Side, Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 1, uh, Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1, Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2, Lincoln, Harry Potter, not Harry Potter, Hunger Games Catching Fire, Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, Mockingjay Part 2. All those movies within like the past, 2 decades. And four of those movies actually broke the November opening weekend. Right? Oh yeah, Frozen 2. How can I forget that? That was only 2 years ago. But yeah, like friggin' the first Harry Potter broke the opening weekend record. Then Goblet of Fire broke the same record. Then Twilight New Moon broke that record, and then now Hunger Games Catching Fire currently holds the November record with $158 million, and that was the weekend before Thanksgiving. And Frozen 2 opened with like 130 again, weekend before Thanksgiving. So this weekend is very good because if it has a good opening weekend, then it'll lead to a strong second weekend. It won't plummet like how movies like these normally do. So yeah, I think the pre-Thanksgiving weekend is a very good spot to be in. So yeah, I would consider that a pro. It's weekend. The weekend is coming out. All right, so I think that's all the pros. Well, the next part I don't consider a pro or a con. The reviews, they're kind of not great. They're like in the 60s. Last I checked, it was like 66, which which won't kill the movie, but it won't like help it either. Granted, Venom Let There Be Carnage only had like a 60% rating, and it opened with like $90 million. So sometimes reviews don't mean a goddamn thing. But it's always better to have good reviews than bad reviews, in my eyes. That's just me. But yeah, I don't think reviews are really gonna help or hurt this movie. So I consider that neither a pro or a con. Okay, cons. All right. For this next part, we're gonna have to mention a certain movie, Ghostbusters 2016. It's pretty much impossible to talk about this movie without mentioning that movie. So I'm gonna have to explain the origin of the 2016 movie. That way we all have full context. All right. So here we go. So after Ghostbusters 2 in 1989, Ghostbusters 3 was one of those movies that really should have came out but didn't, mainly because of Bill Murray, not not being sure if he wanted to do it or not, being like, yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, all the time. Like he had a real reluctance to do it, and as a result, it just never materialized during that time. And it stopped for like a good like 2.5 decades. And then, when Harold Ramis tragically passed away, I guess Sony, they said, well, we can't do a proper Ghostbusters 3, so let's hit the reboot button on Ghostbusters and make a new one, right? So with this movie, fatal flaw number one, you reboot Ghostbusters, or better yet, you reboot a classic movie. Now, it's one thing to reboot like a movie that nobody really cared about or made little money, but when you're rebooting something as iconic and well known as Ghostbusters, you are asking for trouble. You are asking for skepticism, and you are asking for potential backlash. And that's what happened. But we haven't gotten to that part yet. So, yeah, fatal flaw number one, you reboot a classic movie. Fatal flaw number two, this reboot was going to have a gimmick. Instead of four male Ghostbusters and a female secretary, we're going to have four female Ghostbusters and a male secretary. Wild, right? It's groundbreaking stuff. Yes, that's literally all they did. They just gender swapped the main characters. That is it. That is that is inexcusably lazy in my eyes. It just feels like they had no ideas. So they just were like, let's just swap the genders. Instead of dicks, they have vaginas. Perfect. And that's what happened. And this announcement wasn't received very well by the internet. A lot of people kind of saw it as just unnecessary. I really saw it as unnecessary. A lot of people saw it as just feminism in like the worst way possible. You know, a lot of that stuff. But that we haven't even gone to the worst part yet. But that was fatal flaw number 2, doing the gender bend. Well, fatal flaw number 3 with that movie, that trailer. I remember that day like it was yesterday. 2016. It was like an early March. The trailer for the 2016 movie came out. It was a day that will live in infamy, internet infamy, because that trailer was so damn bad. It painted the movie in the worst light imaginable, to the point where at the time it was the most disliked movie trailer ever in the history of YouTube. I'm I'm very positive that has been beaten recently. I think two movies that may have beaten it were the original Sonic movie trailer and Cuties from Netflix. I think those two probably beat it. But at the time, yeah, Ghostbusters 2016, worst. It was like the worst trailer ever. Everybody hated it, and it really that movie was in. It was already in a hole to begin with, but that trailer just sunk it 12 feet lower. And then after that, oh, I don't even want to remember it. I was there for the whole ride, and it was not a fun ride. There was a lot of just backlash and just internet drama. Then the movie came out. It was received pretty meh by the general public. I myself didn't like it very much. But the overall response was meh. It underperformed financially. It didn't help that it was stupid expensive. And yeah, it didn't cut the mustard, at least when it came to box office, and performed so poorly that Sony said, you know what? Maybe we should try making a Ghostbusters 3. That probably would have been the smart idea. And so they canceled any future plans for the female Ghostbusters, and they decided to make this, and here we are. So why did I mention Ghostbusters 2016? Well, that movie left such a bad taste in not only my mouth, but so many other people's mouths that it might negatively affect this movie. Because even though some people will see Afterlife as, basically Sony saying sorry for the 2016 movie, I feel like the damage may be done to the brand. I feel like the 2016 movie may have done too much damage to the overall brand, and to where Afterlife kind of has to pay for its predecessor's sins. It's very similar to what happened with the Suicide Squad, where the Suicide Squad, although it was a great, great movie, it had to deal with the baggage that was the original Suicide Squad, a movie that everybody hated. And yeah, it was just stuck dealing with baggage. And hilariously, Ghostbusters 2016 and Suicide Squad came out that same summer, mere weeks apart. And also that summer, there was like what? Star Trek Beyond and Warcraft and Independence Day Resurgence and X-Men Apocalypse and Alice Through the Looking Glass. Man, summer 2016 sucked ass. I just realized that. That was a bad summer. That was a summer to forget. But yeah. Yeah. So this movie's gonna have to deal with the baggage of the 2016 movie, and I feel like it may be too much. Because anyone who was burned by that movie is likely not gonna watch this one. And is that fair? I don't think so, but that's just how it works sometimes. Even if the next movie, or even if this movie had like an what was considered amazing, I still I still think it would have to deal with that baggage. Just like this how the Suicide Squad had to deal with the baggage of its predecessor. So yeah, I think the 2016 movie is a con here because this is the next Ghostbusters movie after that, even though it's not connected at all. So it's gonna have to deal with the 2016 movie's baggage. So that's a con. The 2016 movie's baggage. Uh Con number two. I feel like the hype for this movie, like initially it was really good because, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, they're making a real Ghostbusters 3. It looks different, it looks cool. And then the hype just died, I guess. I don't know if died is the right word. More like slowly but surely evaporated. Like the hype is not where it should be, honestly. Like I thought it would be a lot bigger. Granted, it doesn't help that a certain movie, Spider-Man No Way Home, it's like a month out from release, and the hype and the anticipation for that movie is deafening, especially now that the second trailer was released right before this movie came out. So that was not so good timing for Ghostbusters. And yeah, I feel like at this point any movie coming out now until No Way Home is going to be an afterthought in the grand scheme of things. I feel like a lot of people are just going to save their money to watch No Way Home because they'll feel like they'll get their money's worth rather than watch this or any other movie coming out within the next few weeks. So, yeah. Yeah, and plus the advertising isn't all that strong, which is weird. I mean, the 2016 movie, say what you want about that movie. I know plenty of people have. But the one thing you can't knock the movie for is its marketing because Sony marketed the hell out of that movie. They really did. They pushed it hard. They pushed it on everything. Probably because 2016 was not a good year for Sony and they had like no real big hits, so they had to push it as hard as they could and I mean it didn't work out, but at least they tried with marketing. This feels a lot more low key. Feels like they don't care as much, or maybe they're just saving their advertising dollars for No Way Home, which isn't the worst idea. Because again, Spider Man No Way Home's hype is just insane right now. So it would be wise to spend more money on that rather than this. Just saying. So yeah, I would consider the marketing campaign and all that's just a relative con. What else is a con? Well, I think that's. I'm trying to think of other cons besides the 2016 movie and the whole marketing campaign. I can't really think of anything else besides those two. Well, those two are significant ones. Well, I guess the pandemic, but is that really a factor anymore? At least, I mean, look at the box office for like, I mean, look at the October box office. I think that proves without a shadow of a doubt people aren't so squeamish about going to the movies anymore. So I don't even think the pandemic's a real issue here. Uh, but I mean, I guess the delays for this movie didn't help it too much because this movie was supposed to come out July of 2020. And then got pushed back to March of 2021, and then June of 2021, then November. In fact, this movie was supposed to come out last weekend until Top Gun Maverick yeeted out of 2021. And so Ghostbusters took that spot. And Yeah, like those long delays usually don't help movies. They kind of kill the hype a little bit. Now, granted, we've seen plenty of movies that have had long delays do well. Venom 2, No Time to Die to an extent, Dune, uh, Black Widow, I guess, F9, Quiet Place 2. There's plenty of examples. Free Guy is another one. Shang-Chi is another one. Yeah, there's plenty of examples, but yeah, because the marketing for this started so early, like way super early, I don't think that was. I don't know. I felt like I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, it feels like, ugh. For you know what? Ugh. I've lost my train of thought. Fantastic, but yeah, I feel like the delays did a bit more harm than good here. So I'll consider the delays a con, roughly. And plus, the release date is really weird. Like all the other Ghostbusters were summer movies, and this is a November movie. It's strange. I don't think that was a. It feels off. It doesn't feel right. But yeah, you know what? That's a con. Let's just end this. So opening weekend, we gotta look at some things. Oh yeah, the movie, at least it was cheap, $75 million. So even if it doesn't do well, it won't lose that much money. But let's look at the franchise here. Ghostbusters 2016. Right here. All right. It opened to $46 million. I don't think that's going to happen for this movie. I don't see it happening at all. In fact, I see it opening, who knows, maybe the same level as Ghostbusters 2, which is really bad considering Ghostbusters 2 came out in 1989. That's like a good over 30 years later. So inflation is just gonna be brutal towards Ghostbusters Afterlife if that's the case. But I just realized another comparison for this movie. Uh, I gotta look it up first. It was see Men in Black International. I think is a decent comparison because Men in Black International also a part of a long running franchise from Sony. In fact, it was also the fourth movie of the franchise. Funny enough, that came out 2 years ago. Nobody wanted it, but we got it anyway. It bombed horribly. Only made 80 million domestic, which is just terrible. Will Ghostbusters Afterlife do that bad? I don't think so, but I think its opening weekend will be similar because Men in Black International opened with like 30 million. I think Ghostbusters Afterlife will probably be in between 30 and 35, but that's me being optimistic. There's a chance it could do worse. You never know, but yeah, I feel like it'll probably open around the same level as Men in Black International. Hopefully, it'll have much better legs. It should. And overseas, Ghostbusters has never been big overseas ever. So I don't expect much from that. But I mean, it's hard to put a positive spin on this because it's going to do worse than the 2016 movie, which at that point you're just like, why even make this movie at all? Right? But yeah, I think it'll make 30 to 35 million opening weekend. Total might reach 100 million as a 50-50 chance of reaching it, depending on how well it does, not only this weekend, but next weekend with Thanksgiving. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping for the best, but that may not be a wise choice. So yeah, that's Ghostbusters Afterlife. Alright, next up for the weekend, I have to do King Richard, and then that'll be it for this weekend. However, 5 days later, apparently I only have to do 3 wide releases, which is good. I was not looking forward to doing 4. I have to do Encanto, House of Gucci, and Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. That's gonna be interesting, to say the least. And then that's it for November. Yeah, it was a pretty weak month, really, when it came to content. And December isn't that much better, but what can I do? So yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? I got a playlist on the homepage of all previous prediction videos I made this year, especially for all the bigger movies. I mean, just look at last month. Venom 2, No Time to Die, Halloween Kills, Dune, Eternals from this month. Who's that? Hell, even Clifford the Big Red Dog. If you want to watch any of those, plus any of the other big movies I've covered this year, you can go right ahead. There's also the canceled series where I covered, all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. I covered Ghostbusters Afterlife multiple times. At least like one, two, three, four, I think 4 times. I think, yeah, 4 times. I covered it 4 times. Last time I covered it was when it got moved from November 11th to the 19th because of Top Gun Maverick. And yeah, if you want to watch any of those videos, you can go right ahead. Any other canceled episodes, there's now 88, so you have plenty to choose from. So you want to watch any of those videos, you can go right ahead. There's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. November recap will come out second week of December, right before West Side Story comes out. So stay tuned for that. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos I've done, especially the ones for this year, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.